Transportation Minister Guy Joseph says the legislation for a disciplinary committee for the transportation sector is currently with the Office of the Attorney General. The National Council on Public Transportation continues to call for such a committee to effect change within the public bus system. Joseph says that committee would not be restricted only to bus drivers, but would cater to the entire public transportation system.
It's a matter now of getting it legislated and getting it to the point where you can actually appoint a disciplinary committee to deal with the matters of discipline within the public transport sector. I must clarify that people must not get the notion that this is a disciplinary committee specifically for the minibus sector. It is geared generally towards the public transport sector, which would include the taxi sector also. There are lots of issues as it relates to discipline and what we need to see happening today that we have not seen.
But while the minister waits for the legislation on this committee to be made law, he is calling on minibus associations to do more to discipline drivers.
We are going through the renewal of route permits, and the same associations who complain on a daily basis about the drivers continues to recommend the same drivers for renewal. Now, if you are going to recommend the same driver for renewal of his route permit, how can 2 weeks later you come back and say, this is a problem driver and we don't want him on the route? It just does not add up in terms of what is being done. I have told them on several occasions there need to be documented evidence if action is to be taken.
The National Council on Public Transportation takes a different view. PRO Lina Sinclair, who is also the secretary of the Grand Riviere Minibus Association, says associations are unable to discipline drivers because the buck stops with the ministry.
If the minister can assure us, associations, and I'm speaking for the associations now, that action will be taken against offending members of the National Council, I cannot see any president hesitating in doing so. The complaints that we get is that the ministry takes a hands-off approach when it comes to disciplining the drivers for whatever reason. And I'm saying we need to get the assurance from the minister that the ministry will stand behind the association after investigations of the report made against offending drivers, that actions will be taken.
Guy Joseph has also mentioned an alternative to the disciplinary committee, one that could be implemented in the interim. However, he says for that body to function, it requires the assistance of the individual minibus associations.
In the absence of the disciplinary committee, we are making it clear that the ministry has the ability to administer discipline, because we can appoint a committee through the Road Transport Board to rule on matters of discipline as it relates to the public transport sector. So while there are lots of complaints in the public domain and from the associations, none is forthcoming to us recommending any course of action against any individual.
Joseph would not hazard a guess about when the Attorney General Chambers would be finished with the legislation for the disciplinary committee. For the National Council, this is a situation that needs immediate redress. Lina Sinclair has called on the minister to engage in more action, less talk. Carmi Joseph, HTS News, Channel 4.